There are two versions of you living inside right now. One is the weak version, the one that doubts, the one that complains, the one that gives up at the first sign of difficulty. And then there is the strong version, the one God created, filled with courage, resilience, and limitless potential. The question is, which version will you feed and which version will you kill? Every day we wake up, and without even realizing it, we are fighting a silent battle with ourselves. The weak version of us wants comfort, excuses, and shortcuts. The stronger version of us wants discipline, faith, and growth. And whichever version we listen to more, that version wins. Life is not just about defeating external challenges. It is about conquering the inner enemy. And the truth is, God has placed in you a strength far greater than any weakness you carry. But to awaken that strength, you must kill that weak version of yourself every single day. Because only when the weak dies, the strong can fully live. Stop negotiating with your excuses. This may sound simple, but it is the root of what keeps many of us stuck in the same patterns year after year. Excuses are not loud. They don't come screaming into our lives. They arrive quietly, softly, like whispers in the back of our minds. They say things like, "You've had a long day, you deserve to rest," when you promised yourself you would exercise. They say, "Tomorrow will be better to start," when you know today is the perfect day to begin. Excuses are clever because they sound so reasonable. They hide under the mask of logic and comfort. But if you look deeply, you will realize they are nothing more than the weak version of yourself trying to take control. Think about how often this happens in daily life. You set the alarm to wake up early, determined to use the morning to pray, meditate, or work on your goals. But when the alarm rings, the weak version begins its negotiation. Just 10 more minutes. You can start tomorrow. Missing one day won't hurt. By the time you realize it, the opportunity for growth has passed, and the weak version of you has won another battle. Or consider how many times you've wanted to speak up for yourself, to say no when you really meant no, but then the weak version intervened. What if they don't like me? What if they judge me? And so silence replaced courage, and the moment slipped away. The truth is, excuses are endless. They come dressed in 1,000 forms, but their purpose is the same: to delay, to distract, and to weaken. If you feed them, they grow stronger. If you starve them, they die. To kill the weak version of yourself, you must stop giving excuses a seat at the table of your decisions. Imagine for a moment that you and your excuses are sitting at a negotiation table. The weak version argues, "Don't try, it's too hard." The strong version responds, "Yes, it's hard, but hard things are what make me stronger." The weak version insists, "You're not ready yet." The strong version calmly answers, "I may not feel ready, but I will never grow if I keep waiting." Every time you answer your excuses with action, you are shifting power from the weak to the strong. Daily life is full of examples that show us this. Look at a student preparing for an important exam. The weak version says, "Scroll on your phone, you can study later." Hours pass and guilt settles in. But the student who refuses to negotiate with that excuse, who closes the phone and opens the book, steps closer to success. Or consider someone struggling with health. The weak version says, "You've already tried before and failed, why bother again?" But the strong version says, "Failure was a lesson, not the end." The person who stops negotiating with that excuse and takes one small step, one walk, one healthy meal, starts creating a new future. Excuses often disguise themselves as protection. They try to convince you that they are keeping you safe from discomfort, rejection, or failure. But in reality, they are protecting you from growth. Imagine a butterfly inside a cocoon. If it listened to excuses, it would never struggle, never push, never break free. And without that struggle, its wings would never become strong enough to fly. The same applies to us. If we keep giving in to excuses, we remain trapped in the cocoon of the weak version, never allowing the strong version to soar. And here is where the divine presence of God comes in. God did not create you to live a life ruled by excuses. He placed within you resilience, courage, and a spirit capable of overcoming storms. When excuses arise, remind yourself, this is not my true self. This is not the version of me that God designed. In that awareness, strength awakens. You begin to see excuses not as reasons but as tests. And each time you pass the test, each time you say no to the excuse and yes to discipline, you honor the strength God placed in you. Take a moment to reflect. What excuses have been holding you back lately? Maybe it's the excuse that you're too busy to take care of your health. Maybe it's the excuse that you're too old to start something new. Maybe it's the excuse that your circumstances are too difficult. Whatever it is, understand this. Excuses are not facts. They are stories. And the weak version of yourself loves telling those stories because it knows that as long as you believe them, you'll stay the same. But the strong version of you is waiting, urging you to write a different story. One of courage, of persistence, of faith. Killing the weak version of yourself does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens in the small choices of daily life. Every time you push past tiredness and keep your word to yourself, you kill the weak version a little more. Every time you choose to act instead of delay, you kill it. Every time you stop negotiating with your excuses and step into discipline, you are giving life to the strongest, most God-aligned version of who you truly are. Choose growth over comfort. This is one of the most difficult yet most rewarding shifts you can make in life. The weak version of yourself always seeks comfort. It wants the familiar, the predictable, the safe zone where there is little risk and little challenge. It says, stay where you are, don't stretch too much, don't try too hard. But deep within you, there is another voice, the strong version that whispers, step beyond what you know. Break through the walls of your comfort. That is where your true self is waiting. Growth never happens in the soft pillows of comfort. It happens in the fire of challenge, in the unknown, in the spaces that stretch your mind, your heart, and your soul. Think about this in daily life. Imagine someone who wants to get physically stronger. The weak version says, why suffer? Stay in bed, enjoy your rest. But anyone who has ever built strength knows that muscles only grow when they are pushed, when they are stretched beyond their limit, when they endure resistance. If the person always chooses comfort, the body stays weak. But when they step into the discomfort of sweat, strain, and discipline, the body transforms. The same rule applies to your mind, your character, and your soul. Without resistance, there is no growth. Take the example of someone working in a job where they feel stuck. They know they have bigger dreams. But the weak version says, at least this is safe. Why risk starting something new? What if you fail? And so they remain in the comfort zone, years passing by, potential left untouched. But the person who chooses growth over comfort listens to a higher calling. They may not know the outcome, they may fear the unknown, but they step forward anyway. And that step into discomfort opens doors to new skills, new strength, new opportunities that comfort could never provide. The truth is, comfort is seductive. It feels good, but it keeps you small. Growth, on the other hand, feels difficult in the moment, but it makes you expand into the person God intended you to be. A seed buried in the soil could choose to remain safe. If it stays there, untouched, it will never face the discomfort of breaking its shell, pushing through the darkness, reaching for the light. But if it chooses growth over comfort, it cracks, it struggles, it pushes against the weight of the soil. And through that discomfort, it becomes a tree that offers shade, fruit, and life to the world. You are like that seed. Remaining in comfort may feel safe, but your greatness lies in choosing the discomfort of growth. Consider relationships. Growth requires honest conversations, vulnerability, patience, and forgiveness. Comfort says, don't say what you feel, just avoid the conflict. But avoiding the discomfort of honesty leads to distance and resentment. When you step into the uncomfortable space of truth, when you have the courage to admit mistakes, to listen deeply, to forgive even when it hurts, your relationships grow stronger and more meaningful. Comfort hides, growth heals. And when we bring God into this understanding, we see it even more clearly. God did not create you just to live comfortably. He created you to evolve, to rise, to unfold your potential. Every challenge you face, every discomfort that shakes your peace, is not a punishment but an invitation to expand, to trust, to awaken your higher self. When life pushes you into discomfort, instead of asking, why me? You can ask, what is this teaching me? How is this helping me grow into the person I was meant to become? In that shift of perspective, discomfort becomes sacred. Think of moments in your own life where discomfort made you who you are today. Maybe it was a failure that taught you resilience. Maybe it was heartbreak that taught you self-respect. Maybe it was rejection that guided you toward a better path. At the time, it hurt. At the time, you wished it away. But looking back, you see that those uncomfortable seasons were the ones that shaped you, refined you, and drew you closer to God's strength within you. Growth never happens in ease. It happens in the stretching, in the challenge, in the breaking and rebuilding. So, when the weak version of you whispers, stay safe, don't try, avoid the pain, recognize that voice for what it is, a voice of limitation. And then listen to the stronger voice, the one that says, go beyond, embrace the challenge, step into the unknown. Because on the other side of discomfort is your transformation. Every great person you admire, every story of triumph you celebrate, has one thing in common. They chose growth over comfort. They endured the struggle, the fear, the uncertainty, and because of that, they discovered strength they never knew they had. And you can do the same. The next time you feel the pull toward comfort, pause and ask yourself, is this choice helping me grow? Or is it keeping me small? If it is keeping you small, then have the courage to take the harder path. Wake up earlier than feels comfortable. Speak the truth even when your voice shakes. Work on your dreams even when tiredness tells you to stop. Forgive even when your ego wants revenge. Each time you choose growth, you are not just building a better life, you are building a stronger, wiser, more God-aligned version of yourself. Master the voice in your head. This is perhaps the greatest battle you will ever fight, not with the world outside, but with the world inside. Every day, from the moment you wake up, your mind begins speaking to you. Sometimes it speaks with encouragement, reminding you of your strength, your dreams, and the presence of God within you. Other times, it speaks with doubt, telling you that you are not enough, that you will fail, that you should not even try. The weak version of yourself thrives on that second voice. It feeds on fear, negativity, and insecurity. The strong version, however, is born when you learn to master that voice, when you learn to guide your thoughts instead of being guided by them. Think of how often this plays out in daily life. Imagine a student preparing to take an exam. The weak voice says, "You're not smart enough. You won't remember everything. What's the point of trying?" If the student listens, fear takes over and performance drops. But if the student answers that voice with courage, "I have worked hard, I will do my best, and whatever happens is a lesson, not a disaster," then confidence grows and the result shifts. The difference between failure and success is often not in ability, but in how we manage the voice inside our head. Consider another example. You are about to try something new, maybe start a business, share your art, or change your career. The weak voice immediately shows up. What if you fail? What if people laugh at you? What if you are not good enough? And for many, that voice is enough to stop them from even starting. But the strong voice, if you allow it to speak, says, "Yes, I might fail, but I will learn. Yes, people might laugh, but their laughter cannot define me. Yes, I may not know everything now, but I can grow." Mastering the voice in your head does not mean silencing fear completely. It means not letting fear decide your life. The human mind is powerful, but it is also tricky. Left untrained, it often clings to the negative. A single criticism can echo louder than 100 compliments. A single failure can overshadow many victories. The weak version of you loves to replay those negative tapes over and over, making you believe they are truth. But the truth is this: your mind is like a garden. If you let weeds of doubt and fear grow unchecked, they will choke your spirit. But if you plant seeds of faith, gratitude, and courage, your inner garden flourishes. Mastery is not about controlling every thought. It is about choosing which thoughts you water. Bringing God into this makes it even deeper. The weak voice often tells you that you are alone, that your struggles are too heavy, that your dreams are impossible. But when you remember the presence of God, you awaken the strong voice that says, "I am never alone. Every struggle is a lesson. Every obstacle is a stepping stone. With faith, I can handle more than I think." That voice does not come from ego. It comes from alignment with the divine. The more you connect to God through prayer, reflection, or silence, the clearer and stronger that voice becomes. Think of people you admire, those who seem unshakable in life. It is not that they never hear the weak voice. They hear it, but they do not obey it. They have trained their mind to respond differently. When the weak voice says, "This is too difficult," they respond, "Difficulty is how I grow." When the weak voice says, "You can't," they answer, "With God's strength, I can." And over time, the strong voice becomes louder, more natural, more dominant. Daily life constantly tests this. You might face rejection at work, and the weak voice tells you, "You're worthless." But mastering your inner voice means replacing that with, "This rejection is redirection. Something better awaits." You might feel overwhelmed by responsibilities, and the weak voice says, "You can't handle this." But the strong voice answers, "I am stronger than I know, and this moment will pass."